Welcome everyone to the PPR and DaveCam iRacing GT3 League now. This will be Season 2, as everyone should know. That's all the hype is about, and as you heard me right, it's just GT3 now. We've still got a DaveCam name, we're hoping for a very good partnership, and as we're actually expecting a lot of people this race, as expected with such a great league. So we're here at Laguna Seca, as you can see, a Ford having a bit of a spin in the sand. We are Laguna Seca in beautiful USA. Very, very USA. You've got mountain peaks, you've got deserts like Arizona, and that's as far as my knowledge goes. Oh, you also have the snow mountains. Can't really tell you much more about it since I'm from Europe. But as you can see on the little info box, we only have GT3, I said it already, but now we also have a few races that are going to have two heats of race 1 being 20 minutes and then 30 minutes for the reverse grid race. Oh, presumably reverse grid, if I remember correctly. And 45 minutes for the remaining races in the season. I will tell you this schedule in just a moment. The schedule is as follows. So today we're at Laguna Seca, which is the 45-minute race. Then we're at Silverstone with the two heats. Then at Road America, 45 minutes yet again. Then Nürburgring, the WEC layout, or WEC if you want me to spell it out, which is also two heats. Long Beach, 45 minutes. Charlotte Roval, 45 minutes. Monza Grand Prix, two heats. Autumn Park without Britons, 45 minutes. And Sebring International for the season finale, also 45 minutes. So we've got a very nice schedule, something that doesn't really really show up that often, since obviously you've got Laguna Seca, which it has shown up a few times on VRS or IMSA. You've got Long Beach, which is the new entry. You've got Charlotte Roval, which is also not very popular. Monza, the classic. Autumn Park, one that shows up every so often as well, but it's not a common racetrack really for GT3s. And obviously you've got Sebring, a well-known track, but also not a GT3 track. It's more of the... well, it shows up in IMSA, but I wouldn't call it a GT3 track, so that's also interesting to see. So you've got a mix of a few tracks that don't actually show up that often. And when they do, it's just by itself. And a mix of those really well-known tracks like Silverstone, Nürburgring, Monza. So I'm really hoping for a good season. A very exciting one. I mean, something like Autumn Park or even Laguna here, with 40 cars on track or even more if everyone shows up, is going to be very fun to watch. Other than that, we have some new graphics with everyone on the grid, although we had some new signups very late, quite recently from the stream, so obviously we don't have everyone on there, but we'll be probably showing those on screen as a spotter's guide, maybe, if you want to call it that way, in the next races. And obviously, once I get back in the groove, I might be able to provide some better coverage of the broadcast. Obviously, I'll say out there, I'll put it out this early. Apologies for any stream quality issues. It's obviously 40 cars on track at the start of the race specifically might not be the easiest thing to handle for a computer, or any computer really. It's already a chore. So I apologize there, and obviously, as I'm getting back in the groove, maybe just one race of a bit more leniency when it comes to commentating, since we've had a long winter break, and obviously staying at home due to the current situation in the world, it's not ideal. But that's enough waffling, and let's see where our drivers are. So, we've got 16 drivers on the timing tower from Pro Class and 14 from AM Class, and I don't actually know if it's everyone. We've got 38 cars altogether in this session currently, with 12 minutes remaining of practice. That's a lot of cars. As you can see, we've got actually a few AM drivers out qualifying a few Pro drivers, but the gaps are fairly close together. As you can see, all of Pro is separated by 2 seconds, with a majority within 1.2 seconds, and all of Am is within 2 seconds, with a majority being in 1 second away from each other. So that's really good. Should make for some really close racing. But with these 38 cars on track, we are doing open qualifying, which is 15 minutes, if I remember correctly. So, oh my gosh, someone just did a massive slide. But we're going to expect a bit of madness, but now we can actually do a full F1 style qualifying, so that you see all the cars coming across the start-finish straight. We probably won't get to cover one of them throughout our whole lap when we have this many cars on track. But that's really exciting for both me and hopefully for the broadcast, and all the drivers even, when all the cars are going to be 2 seconds apart, getting the tow and technically fighting each other on track. As you can see, there's already traffic on track. But let's try and maybe home in on someone. Maybe some action. So obviously we've got all of our drivers in GT3s now. So you've got Dan Ball, our GT class winner from Season 1. In an Audi this time. Very good looking car there. Deliveries might be a bit different. And I keep... that's funny. There's an Assetto Corsa Competizione logo on both sides of the car, despite being an iRacing. It's quite interesting. You've got our... Oh my, that's a spin and a half with the Ferrari. Still looks fine. You've got the LMP2 class with Alex Gao in the Ford. A hell of a car. And I noticed something that the timing tower is already too long. But we'll keep it the same for now. Oh, the picture. Because the picture is beautiful. The Satellite Racing VRS sponsored Ford GT. Car you don't really see that often anymore, which is quite sad, but it's not the easiest car to drive. It's also quite competitive though. It's been probably the fastest car 2-3 times in the VRS schedule last season, if I remember correctly. I believe one of those tracks was Alton Park. You've also got our championship contenders, I believe. Let me see. James Bowman, Adam Singer, and I believe Juka Aho is also in the GT3 and category. I need to confirm that. But I believe James Bowman won the championship, so that's another championship winner in the pro category. But I've also got a lot of new names. Which is great to have, obviously, with 38 drivers. We'd expect at least some of them to be new. That's why we've got the full names. But as I learn, and obviously that you guys learn what their first names are, we'll just stick with the surnames. Since obviously the timing tower is quite thick now. That's one way to call it. So now let's see some of the other liveries on track. We've got the Lightning McQueen Ferrari of Mikhail Altonen. You've got the BMW M4 GT3 prototype. I'll call the prototype next time. Of George Appleyard. Very shiny livery there. Looks like it's chrome. But that car looks alien-like, honestly, from the front. It's insane. I don't hate on the grille too much anymore, but it looks alien from the front. The front wing, or the front splitter, whichever you want to call it, not exactly too well versed when it comes to the aerodynamic parts and their names. But it looks a bit alien. On the back, on the rear actually looks like a DTM car a bit. They've always had those sort of thick, especially rear bumpers. You've got a very simple Ferrari here. Red, black and white. Kind of reminds me of the car Chris Barrett used in GTE class. Speaking of Chris Barrett, actually, let's look at him. He's currently our provisional pole sitter in practice, and he's actually got the same livery, but for the Audi GTN Racing, so similar colour scheme. But we've also got a Lambo of Eric Newman, our GT Pro driver. Similar colour scheme, so it looks like some drivers actually kept the same, well, at least same style of delivery. But that Lambo looks really nice. Although the BMW actually doesn't look too bad itself. But when you look at the Lambo, you know it's a Lambo, and you can enjoy it. And that's been a crash in the corkscrew, which I really don't want to happen in the race because that's going to cause some mayhem. So we've still got another Ferrari. So actually, no, let me quickly go through what cars we have on track. So as you can see, you've got the badges, which tells you everything, but from just looking at standings, what's the general consensus is that in GT drivers tend to prefer the Ferrari, which is a fairly easy car to drive, but it can be very fast. So that's what some drivers prefer, and obviously from the Ferrari GT3 challenge, a lot of new drivers might hop in straight into the GT3, which is very capable. As you can see here, some drivers have opted to go for it. You do have a few Mercedes. It's not the fastest car, but for instance, you got Jamie Lawrence running it. Fast driver, he was in the LMP2 category. He could have given Alex Gall a challenge. Obviously, a few mishaps in the races, a little bit of contact on lap 1, it never helped him. But as you can see, the PPR livery, as he is the PPR administrator, or one of them at least. Thank you to all the PPR staff for doing the job, including myself. You've also got the Mercedes of Wout and Ellison, an LMP2 competitor as well. Simple livery there, green and black. We saw Wout run that in the fun race, I believe. Very simple livery, but it'll be very catchy as well. So, hopefully a few eyes on him. And you've also got the Mercedes of Saman Sayed. And that's just a maroon livery. Maroon/brown. Could never really tell the difference. It's always called brown anyways. You've got also the Mercedes of Dan Ocaranza. Another single color livery really. Cody Hatch. That's actually a very well composed livery. It's got the toothpaste turquoise, well maybe not necessarily toothpaste, but also the black and white. They're not even accents anymore. The black and the white actually have a very large role in the car's livery. Ooh, just noticed there's a driver around the class. Let me just correct that for us. There we go. A new driver that joined, I believe. Well, no, sorry, that hasn't set a lap. But that was just a Mercedes that I noted. And that's not the way to do it, Cody. That's some contact, and that's him going to be resetting back to the pits. Let's just hop over to someone exciting, really. Someone we haven't seen yet. So we've got Richard here in the Audi. So as you can see, a GT3 Pro prefers a bit more diverse cars. So you've got the Lambos and the Audis, which are fairly similar cars, but they behave a bit differently. You've got the Ford of Alex Gall, which is the only Ford in the league. You've got the BMWs of Nils Core and James Bowman, Derek McManus and Edward Hope, and Eric Love, sorry. That's quite a few BMWs. You've got a Ferrari of Chris Scar. That was an LMP2 driver last season. So you've got a very diverse grid here actually. You've got the Mercedes of Jamie Conway. And if you look at the gaps, obviously you've got a Lamborghini in a 21.543. But you've also got a Mercedes at 21.618. It's very close together. Obviously you've got Audi on provisional pole half a second ahead, but I'm sure that not everyone's realised the true potential yet. Obviously Laguna isn't the most popular circuit either. On a circuit like Silverstone, you might see the gaps close down, and I believe those are Mercedes in the sand or in the gravel. So as you can see, well, we should have some very good racing, and if we don't, I'll be very surprised. Because with gaps like this, where there's multiple cars in even 1/10, if you look at GT from roughly P6 to P8, or from P6, no sorry, not P6, from P7 to P10. It's less than a tenth separating multiple cars, and if these guys don't get to fight, it's just going to be a really, really big disappointment, honestly. Can we see Jamie Conway's livery? There you go. I actually quite like this one, despite it being one of the simpler ones. Orange, blue, and white. Orange and blue are the colours I used to run everywhere. Any game that had customization, I'd always put an orange and blue. Maybe a slightly lighter blue, but still looks good nevertheless. So with 2 minutes of practice remaining, I believe the practice standings might actually be already wrapped up. with Chris Barrett on provisional pole, half a second ahead of Dan Ball and Alex Go rounding off the GT3 Pro podium, and Dan Reed in the Ferrari with a 122.032. Nick Green in the BMW 110 and Rahul Bolineni with a 122.172, 1.4 times off. Now I actually look at it, there is 2 cars between Nick and Rahul, and those 2 cars are within 300 of those 2. That is absolutely crazy. Obviously, Chris Scar and Edith Hope, Jamie Lawrence and Eric Love will be hoping to improve, so they're ahead of the AM drivers, but I mean, when you see a grid like this, it's actually impressive. I'm sure that they'll give each other space between the 2 classes, but I mean, they're within their rights to fight. So there you go, that's the livery. We've actually got a few drivers coming on out laps now, but it's too late for that. 30 seconds remaining, and once that time is over, it's done. Dan Ball showing off the pit entry, and he's in the wall. He is in the wall. I'm not going to show a replay of that, but that was not the way to do it. Hopefully no one else does that, because obviously you do have to pit in the race. The tanks are not big enough, following VRS rules here, the VRS GT Sprint, and that's actually going to be it for practice. It was more about an entry to the season now, rather than showing off all the liveries so far. We should see enough of them in the race. What? What are you doing? Overlay, please. Overlay. Let's hide that, thank you. Okay, so now we're going to use the qualifying overlays we started using halfway through the season, I believe. But now we should have everyone on track for it. So look how many cars we have on track. Let's just quickly go to the pit lane cameras. We've got all those cars coming out on track currently. I believe there's even been contact somewhere. That's not ideal. So we'll have 15 minutes of qualifying, and as you can see, there's already, look at the gaps between the cars. I'll have the battle box open as it goes on and show maybe a few more cars. So we've got Alex Go, our championship winner and one of the favourites to win the championship in GT3 Pro, stuck between 2 cars, both under a second, next to him. And then you've got that's applying to everyone. You've got a car in front of you, you've got a car behind you, and if that car makes a mistake, God forbid, you might either end up inside of him, or having to abort your lap. Or maybe you come through perfectly, because we're expecting everyone to behave very well here. And the first lap was Matt Edmondson. Not sure how that lap was set, actually, since it wasn't an out lap. I guess iRacing qualified it as them crossing the line, because the start-finish line is actually in a slightly different place than you'd expect. I believe it's on the pit exit, so that might be the reason for it. But as you can see now, Matt Edmondson leading off the qualifying, and James Bowman as well. And we've already got someone taking the purple Sector 1 from him. But you've got all the times coming in now. So it's just green so far, no purples for anyone. Matt Edmondson still hitting more purple sectors, but obviously improving on his own. No AM drivers in the first 4. Eric Newman going green, James Bowman actually getting purple sector 3, but that might be taken away from him. And it has. James Bowman going purple yet again. No, Eric Newman going purple. So obviously, as you can see, the times are going to be coming in, and there's a car off in the gravel there. So James Bowman will be coming across first for Pro, then Eric Newman, then Henry. Alex Go with a purple in Sector 3, eager to improve. Not many more purples other than that. Chris Barrett purple in Sector 2 and Sector 4. Chris Scar purple in Sector 1. So Chris Barrett's on provisional pole. There is some traffic actually going into turn 1. You've got a car exiting the pits, you've got two cars fighting. That's Chris Barrett actually, and a Mercedes of one of the drivers. So now you've got Chris Barrett on provisional pole, 400th of a second ahead of Alex Go, followed by Chris Scar. Matt Edmondson keeps his provisional pole in GT3 AM, and I'm sorry, I'm going to correct that. Carlton Small actually takes the provisional pole of GT3 AM with 3.7 tenths of a gap to Jason Orr in the Audi. Adam Singer jumps up to P9. Dan Reed, purple in Sector 1 and Sector 3, no personal best in Sector 2. Jamie Lawrence jumps up into P5 over 21.9. Meanwhile, Dan Reed is still on the purple sectors. This might be his chance to take the pole. Improvement in Sector 4, now coming through Sector 5, let's see how tight he can do it. Into the final corner, now flat at the end, and you can see the car wiggle a little bit there. That means he's giving it his all. Across the line, 23.2. No, 22.1. What a lap. He is ahead of half of the GT3 Pro Grid and ahead of Carlton Small by a whole second. Alex Gull improves, takes provisional pole with 120.843. Leaving Chris Barrett 1/10 behind, and now there you go. Alex will have to reset and try and find another gap to improve if he wants to. Let's see now. Ruth Anderson improves, jumps into P8 now, leapfrogs Mills Core. We've got people going side by side over the start finish line. Eric Love saying his first lap, and as everything's moving so fast with 4 cars coming across the start finish line so quickly. Eric Love jumping into P10, and that's a Lamborghini jumping over the curbs at turn 1, laying a few cars by, but it's very tight. P7 is for Adam Singer with a 121.933. Oliver Swan jumps into P6 of GT3 AM with a 24.686. But look how many cars we have on track here, and they're all different. It's difficult to even do some sort of spotting. So we'll jump over to maybe the cars about to finish their laps. Mikkel Altonen coming across the final corner now in the Lightning McQueen livery. Got the slipstream of the Ferrari and the Lamborghini in front. Improvements through all of the sectors besides Sector 3. And he jumps into P4. Good lap by him. Still 1.1 seconds off Dan Reed. He must have got really lucky with the traffic, or everyone else is getting really unlucky with the traffic now. You can see cars exiting the pits, cars going slowly. It is the worst possible conditions for these drivers, but whoever pulls through will end up on pole or at least on a higher position than the rest of the grid. We've got drivers improving like Richard coming across the line now from P10, jumps into P5, 121.523. He's in P5 now. Still 6.8 times off, but he's improving. Karen Kovshik improving everywhere so far, and now coming across the start-finish line, he jumps into... Oh, he may have invalidated that lap. Well, we've got Eric Newman coming across the line shortly. Very difficult to even find all these drivers when there's that many on track. Coming through the final corner in this Lamborghini. No improvement in Sector 2 and 3. He'll be hoping for a very good Sector 5 if he wants to maybe improve his position. You got 121.5. Crossing the line, you got no improvement, so I'm assuming an invalidated lap. Mikkel Altonen now improves his lap yet again, 22.6. Dan Bull jumps into P8. I believe that was Edward Hope jumping into P11. So now there's only 2 GT3 Pro drivers that are inside of the GT3 AM grid, and that's Nils Core and Eric Love, both who will be eager to improve before the start of the race, since obviously they will not be able to start with a class. due to the way of iRacing. iRacing does not allow us to separate the subclasses. He's coming across the line now. Improvement in Sector 3 and Sector 4. Maybe the traffic wasn't too good for him, or his BMW really. Let's see, and he improves P7. 8 times off Alex Go, his friend and indirect teammate. 21.646, good lap. Karen Kovchik jumps into P4 now with a 23.004. You can see Dan Reed slowing down there a bit into the corkscrew, maybe avoiding traffic. We've got cars zooming by behind him. That is actually gosh, I forgot. Jamie Conway. Yep, that's the one. Memorized one livery. Eric Newman jumps into the podium positions of P3. 121.309. There is just 300 between him and Henry Tadeuszek. That's a car off the track. That's a Caterpillar Audi. You've got Carlton Small with a purple Sector 2. Personal improvement in Sector 1. But no improvement in Sector 3 or 4. Maybe he got some traffic there. Jamie Conway improves, jumps into P10. But Carlton Small, can he pull through? It might not be a pole lap, but it's definitely an improvement. There you go, there's the improvement. 22.373, putting him in P2 and 2 tenths off Dan Reed. Stephen Hughes jumps into P7, I believe, with a 24.1. But there has been no lead changes in either class so far, and that's an anime livery there, a Christmas one at that. Derek McManus and James Braid improving through sectors 1 through to 4, but no improvement in sector 5 for either of them. And that's Carlton Small in the wall. That BMW is going to need a tow back to the pit lane. And there you go. See a completely different livery here. Nick Green actually improving, jumping into P2, closing the gap to Dan Reed. Still 5 minutes remaining. Maybe he can get another lap and dethrone Dan Reed. There's just under a tenth between them. 22.257 was Nick Green's lap. We've got another driver coming in. This is number 39 actually. Or driver number 39. Well, not number 39, but 39 person. Chris Bauer actually takes provisional pole from Alex Go by a whole tenth. 20.746 versus Alex's 20.843. Eric Love jumps into P16, still behind the GT3 AM drivers, and William Hope actually jumps into P8, ahead of his teammate and I believe brother, Edward Hope. A good few tenths ahead, and as you can see, there's multiple cars coming to the start-finish line, and Dan Bull jumps into P5 over 21.340. Not many drivers improving too much, or maybe enough to get massive gains, but as you can see, the GT3 AM grid is very close. You can see drivers stuck in traffic now, maybe making a few mistakes when the pressure is high. As you can see, the yellow sectors everywhere. It's not ideal for everyone. But Nick Green actually improves, takes the provisional pole off Dan Reed. As I was saying, he could have got a better lap, and he did. 22.014, not a 21 yet, but it's still got 1.5 tenths of a gap between him and Dan Reed. You can see the camera's flicking through a little bit, leaving it on automatic for now, and that's a spin, a big spin, up to the run-up on to the corkscrew. Wow, there's going to be cars coming by that, but I believe he's off the track already. Karen Kovchik improving through from Sector 1 to Sector 4 besides Sector 3. William Hope improving from Sector 1 to Sector 3. Alex Go improvement in Sector 2. We'll be hoping for a bit more if he wants to really endanger Chris Barrett. Henry Tadeuszek green in all sectors so far. Now Sector 5 remaining, and he might actually be able to get back his podium. Let us see. Coming across the line in his Audi. That's an improvement. He takes back the podium place. Still not P2 or P1. It's P3 though. Close the gap by half. Half of what was 0.5 tenths before. Just to clarify, he's now 2.3 tenths off with a 20.9. So those are there's 3 20s in the top 3 now. Doesn't seem like any improvements from too many drivers now. But we can see a few green sectors. Obviously there's not as many cars on track right now. Maybe some people have already given up or or they're happy with their laps and don't really feel like they can improve or don't want to ruin anyone else's laps. So it's perfectly respectable. You can see two Mercedes fighting. That's Ruta Nelson and Dan Ocaranza. James Bowman jumps into P12, I believe, 21.701. Just under a second off Chris Barrett. See a good few cars still very close together. Carlton Small actually goes purple in Sector 5. But still, that lap was 1.6 seconds off his previous best, or the pole sitter time right now. And that was actually an Audi. Maybe Dan Bull? That may have been Dan Bull. That's a BMW off the track again. And oh my gosh, that's an Audi in the gravel on the run up to the corkscrew. Keeps it together, good job. That's one of the Hope drivers, that's William Hope actually. And getting past the Mercedes. That was Saman Sayed. A little bit of a squeeze there. A BMW off the track again. But no improvements by these drivers anymore. One sector, but the rest is all yellow. That's a BMW speeding into the pit lane, I believe. Now he gets a stop in time. Doesn't pull a damn ball into the pits. Eric Love, green in Sector 1 and Sector 3. But yellow everywhere else so far. Coming across the line. What does he get? No improvement? Fair enough then. Dan Ocaranza improves, jumps into P13 now. Just on the bottom of the timing tower there. Carlton Small, green in Sector 1 to Sector 4, besides Sector 2. Doesn't improve in Sector 5. Is that still enough to get pole? May have been an outlap. Probably not though. Maybe been validated for whatever reason. You can see a few drivers setting green sectors still, but that's qualifying over. Not sure if they'll get to complete another lap or not, but we shall see. I believe they might do. No, they will. Okay, that's perfect. So you see a few drivers going fairly slowly here. Or is that? Oh, sorry, that might be turn 1 speeds. So we'll be on board with one of the drivers for a longer amount of time now. We've got Wutanas and green in Sector 1 and Sector 2. Yellow in Sector 3. Came down the corkscrew fairly cleanly. Now a few more corners to go. Doesn't improve in Sector 4. We don't see many improvements from the other 3 drivers behind them. Through the final corner now. Keeps it nice and tight. You can see the brake discs gleaming from the heat. And now across the line. Where does Ruta place himself? He's P16. Does he improve? Yes, he does. Jumps into P15. And there is just 3 thousandths of a second between him and Derek McManus. And just 200ths of a second between him and Jamie Conway. So that is very, very close. And as the final driver who crossed the line, it was Duncan Cope. Jumping into P14. Oh, actually, he didn't improve that lap. So I believe he should disappear magically in a moment. And we should be ready for the race. Qualifying over here? Does show that anyone's on a lap. Let's see the... Okay, when the transition period done. You can see the checkered waving. Don't have the results available yet. There we go, we've got the qualifying results available. We will show first. Sorry, actually no, wrong component. So we've got Chris Barrett on pole with a 120.746, starting alongside him, Alex Gowans, Full Satellite Racing, just under a tenth behind them. Then we've got Henry Tadulshek and Eric Newman, 2 tenths and 5 tenths off respectively. Dan Bull and Adam Singer, just about 6 tenths and 7 tenths respectively. Nils Core in P7 and Chris Carr in P8, both 7 tenths off, very close together. Richard Zuider, I will never make that mistake again. 7 tenths and 8 tenths off alongside him, Edward Hope. William Hope starting behind his teammate by just about 200 per second in P11. James Bowman alongside him. Then we got Jamie Lawrence in P13 and Derek McManus in P14, 1 second and 1.1 seconds respectively. Wooten Ellison and Jamie Conway, both on the same roll, both 1.1 seconds off, very, very close to Derek McManus. And Eric Love rounding off the GT3 Pro grid. And now for GT3 AM, we've got Nick Green on pole for them, 122.014, 1.5 tenths off from Dan Reed in P2. Carlton Small and Rahul Bolineni, 3.5 and 4.5 tenths off respectively. George Appleyard and Mikhail Alterman taking P5 and P6. Jason Orr and Karen Kovshik both 9 tenths off on the 4th row of the grid for GT3 AM. Then we got Danny Hujavin and Matt Edmondson, 1.2 and 1.3 seconds off respectively in P9 and P10. Stephen Hughes and Oliver Swan in P11 and P12, 1.5, 1.9 seconds off respectively. Dama Carranza and Duncan Cope, 2.2 and 2.4 seconds off. Cody Hatch and James Braid, 2.5 and 2.5 seconds off. Steve Rubino, Bill Smitham, Saman Sayed and Ricardo Small. Kevin Straw and Xander rounding off the grid. And now I believe we're about to be late, so let's go to the start of the grid. Yeah, there we go, that's Chris Barrett actually.
Green flag.
Just made it on time for the start of the GT3 League. We've got Chris Barrett starting us off. One of the drivers didn't begin, and he's starting off well clear of Alex Go, half a second, and then more than half a second of gap to Eric Newman from there. So we see Kevin Straw getting a really poor start, and there's some madness going through the next few corners. Let us stay over at the top, and I believe I heard a crash there, going into turn 3 now. Look how close the cars are together. There was just a few tenths between them. The drivers look like they're 3 wide, now there's 2 wide, and now they're giving each other just enough space to make it through the corners. But look how close they're going, double file in groups of 4. That is absolutely crazy. Doesn't seem like we've had many crashes. We may have had a few off tracks. May have just jinxed that. I believe someone may have just went off the track. As you can see here, we've had P17 go off. That was William Hope going off actually. Eric Love's still behind GT3 AM drivers, but he is not able to get through with 3 seconds of a gap and multiple GT3 AM cars to get past to the car in front. Oh, a few cars blinking there. Not ideal. Jamie Conway right behind Jamie Lawrence, and right behind Derek McManus, and right behind them half of the other grid. William Hope trying to fight his way through GT3 AM drivers, still got a massive gap to the actual GT3 Pro field. A little bit of frame drops, but that's as expected right now when the grid is so close. We'll keep the track map on for a little bit. Got Nils Core chasing after Adam Singer in the BMW versus the Lamborghini, but still there's no real side-by-side fights anymore. The grid's spaced out a bit more, but still it's all just about the toe right now. It's all about the toe. We've seen something similar on a track like Watkins Glen recently in GTE. If you drop out the toe, you're going to drop out far behind. And now you can see James Bowman, and actually, is that Edward Hope going close together? No, that's James Bowman and Richard, and that's James Bowman actually off the track in the corkscrew. May have gone a little bit too much of a squeeze there. Very close racing, but no contact between them at least. James rejoins the track safely, and now he's got Carlton Small to worry about behind him. And the other GT3 AM drivers, including Eric Love actually, as the one GT3 Pro driver that started behind AM. We've got Chris Barrett setting the fastest lap of the race with a 121.3, pulling away a tiny bit from Alex Go, but we've still got some fights going on. There's actually been a spin outside the corkscrew, that's number 17. Gosh. This is really hectic. Now, There's been a car off there. There's a BMW. Ricardo Small comes through. I'm not sure. I don't think he's been off track. Or he may have been looking at the gaps now on the track map. It's been very, very close racing, obviously. A few off tracks, but it doesn't seem like there's been much contact between the drivers. You've got a bit of a gap forming between both GT3 Pro and GT3M. GT3M more than, actually. Although we've got William Hope trying to fight his way through the field along with James Bowman. As you can see here, Derek McManus in his plain white BMW M4 GT3 prototype. And actually a few position changes. Dan Reed dropping down to P9, P10. There's been an off actually. What happened to these guys? Oh, that's a PPR car and Dan Reed in the wall on the run up to the corkscrew. That is not great. Doesn't seem like they have massive damage, but that's not great. That is not great. That was Dan Reed and Cam Kovchik, and that car is absolutely totaled. That is going to be at least 10 minutes in the pits, if I remember correctly. And that's him spinning around in the corkscrew. That car is done. And there's even rear wing damage. Not ideal for Karen or Dan Reed. Or some of the other drivers who had a little bit of an off. We've got a bit of a gap now between GT3M and GT3 Pro. And that is actually Nick Green, along with James Bowman having a bit of a scrap. And that's James Bowman through. Eric Love will now be hoping to go through. Catch up to the rest of the field, and Eric Newman actually made a pass for P3, but they're actually going side by side, and that's a cut by Eric Newman over the corkscrew. Didn't see exactly what happened, and Dan Hall gets through as well into P4. Eric Newman has to be happy with P5 because that was a very unlucky cut. I think he's bled the slowdown now and can continue fighting, but no ideal. If you want to make a move, it's gotta be clean. You can already see a bit of a gap. Alex Garr and Chris Byer have pulled away. But that Ford is right up that alley, and that Ford is incredibly competitive. There is just a few times between them per lap, and you can see Alex improved that, but that's still not the fastest lap of the race. And the fastest lap of the race is actually very mixed now, because you can see faster sectors appearing by different drivers, obviously not on screen, but I can see this data that all the drivers benefiting from the tow greatly and putting out fastest and fastest lap as they get more clean air, as they get more used to the conditions. We're just 6 minutes in, and people are speeding up more than they did in quali actually. Obviously they've got more space now. So you see a few position changes. Wooten Anderson jumping into P12. There's actually been a spin. That is the position 16 car of Derek McManus, I believe, in the BMW. That's not great for him. Is he back up to speed? No, his car is gone. That is a lot of damage on that car. No ideal. There's a few cars coming by still, and you've got Mercedes off the track. That doesn't seem to be looking that bad, but that front right is damaged. For both of them even. But look how close Alex Gull is now. Up Chris Barrett. That is absolutely amazing how they managed to keep so close together. There's just a tenth between them, and they're just still keeping at the same pace. They are going roughly at the same pace. They're going faster than... Actually, no, they're not. Dan Bull, Helmut Tadeuszek and Eric Newman will be catching up to them. As you saw, they were 3 times quicker last lap. If these guys keep fighting, or at least if Alex is held up by Chris, they will end up with a 3-way fight, or even 4-way fight. But meanwhile, we actually have overtaken by Duncan Cope. Sorry, there's been another spin. That's not ideal. That was Steve Rubino, I believe. He spun in the Huracan. Now he has to worry about Kevin Straw, I believe, getting past him and going a little bit slowly in the final corner. There's a Mercedes also going quite slowly. That's Xander. Oh, Xander. What happened to you? You were alone there. Steve will be eager to improve now, obviously after his little spin. I believe there's been actually a slowdown of Eric Newman's in the wall. Oh my gosh, his rear is completely gone. Something happened in the corkscrew. Obviously you won't be able to look back at it right now. And he's told that's his car gone. He'll be happy with well, we can call it retirement, unless he gets away with just a few minutes of damage, but that's still put him out of really points contention. Not ideal. But the race must go on with just one car in the pits recently. Dan Reed and Rahul Bolineni in the pits. Other than him, it's alright. I mean, obviously Karen's also in the pits, if I remember correctly. And actually, no, we have Fast Repairs, if I remember correctly. So they'll be coming out of the pits instantly. Well, after they've served their toll. That's why Karen is already out on track. But Dan told, I believe. Although Dan might be on track now as well. Completely forgot about the fast repairs, which are absolutely lifesavers for drivers that obviously had an incident like Eric did. His car's totaled, and he still wants to give a chance. You have to toll. He obviously told that that's another, pretty much a whole lap on. So he'll be lapped, but he'll be back in the race. George Appleyard and Carlton Small chasing after Nick Green, but you've also got all the other cars behind them. I believe they may be GT3 Pro drivers, by any chance. Might be a lap car, actually. Yeah, that's a lap car for sure. So they've got a fairly close fight for the lead of GT3M, and obviously Alex Gow still chasing after Chris Barrett. They're no longer losing time to the rest, which is Henry Tadeuszek, Dan Ball, Nils Core. Eric Newman is obviously out of contention now for the podium after his unlucky incident. Will Smitham gets past Duncan Cope. You never got to see the overtake, but he's got a little bit of damage on his front right, but still seems to be making it work. But the Ferrari is still right behind them. They look to be okay right now. And actually, Bill Smitham has gained 13 positions from his starting place in the grid, and that's actually number 4. Dan Ball off on the run up to the corkscrew. Seems to be a little bit of damage in the front left, but he's going to figure out how to get back on track safely with cars everywhere right now. But now that's him out of contention as well, so Henry Tadeuszek will be happy with his P3, and now he can try and push on, catch up to Alex Gow and Chris Barrett hopefully, or just try and pull a gap to Nils Core, who is happy in P4, not really afraid of anything, but still just not fast enough to challenge for the win here, or challenge Henry so far. So that's Dan Ball, says out of this race. I believe that may be incorrect. No, that may be correct. He's not in the pits. And that's a car going off track there. As you can see, that's a BMW of Danny. That was not correct. Sorry, didn't mean to go to the replay camera there, but you see what happened there. Rejoined nicely. That's Derek McManus's BMW without the front bonnet. So Dan Ball is out of this race, yep. So that's 2 drivers after an unlucky incident who have to settle for pretty much a retirement in this race. Obviously Eric is back in the race, I believe, back on track. Yeah, there he is, but he can only gather the scraps really. Who is that? Maybe Jamie Conway actually, going a bit slow. 9 drivers by, and Edward Hope is in the pits. Is he going for an undercut? We saw a few undercuts by him. We'll have this little overlay open to let you know how long the pit stop takes for him. So we can go back to watching the other drivers coming by now. So now they're lapping him. Obviously the lap isn't too long, 1 minute 20s. So getting lapped fairly easily when you box in. 11.8 service time, and when he comes out the pits, it will be 47 maybe? Oh my, it might actually be a 50-second pit stop. So 51.5, okay, so that's the benchmark, 11.8, 51.5. Eric Newman is also in the pits. Obviously he had 1 tow, now he may have done fuel. Or maybe he forgot to do fuel, or maybe he's doing damage now, or penalty, who knows. We can't really see it. But we still got the 3-way fight for the lead, plus whoever backmarkers come by. They also may have to yield the position, but that's great. there's 3 BMWs fighting for the lead. They're not big boys, but they're slightly smaller big boys, if that makes sense. Duncan Cope chasing after Bill Smitham still. Not able to get past so far, but he's putting the pressure on, maybe hoping to get back his position, staying in the toe. As I said before, the toe is important around here. Especially a bit of clean air, a bit of toe is really useful. You don't want to be too close to them, but you want to be in the toe. Just benefit a bit on the straights. That benefit could be a good few temps if you're able to keep decent pace while behind another car. And you've got Alex Gull lapping, well, Alex Gull and Chris Barrett lapping the 3 GT3 and drivers. That's from the battle box. You've got Kevin Straw in the Ferrari ahead of Alex. You just had Alexander behind them. Next up will be Dan Carranza. Looks like the overtakes have been pretty safe so far. No one really wrestling the other to get past. Just been the usual, just slightly lift, maybe slight brake to yield the position, and that's it. They can continue racing. But Alex may have lost a little bit of time. 1.3 seconds is now the gap between them. Not as close as Bill Smitham and Duncan Cope. As you can see here, still the same gap as it was last lap really, and still not able to close it in. And you've still got the freeway fight for the lead of GT3 AM. I believe the only thing that can separate these three is the pit stop. You saw a few exhaust flames actually coming out. That car looks quite nice when it does that. Still not the best looking car. I'd say the Lamborghini looks a bit better than two new GT3s. And there you go, the camera decides. Actually, no, that's Bill Smitham behind. Bill Smitham behind Duncan Cope. So Duncan has got past. And there you go. Put under pressure and he reaped the benefits. And that's Jason Orr and James Braid putting the pressure on Bill now. And actually James putting on the pressure on Jason right now. And that's a bit of damage on the front of the car, or even the rear. May have got punted there a little bit. That car does not look healthy. But he's still keeping up with Jason Orr, Bill Smitham. And actually that was commentator's curse for sure. May have cut the corner a little bit there, lost time. But that's two cars in the pits now. Mikhail Altonen going for an undercutting his Ferrari. And that is also number 22 in the class. Who is that? Dan Reed, sorry. So he's coming out 18.5, so that was a really slow stop. Must have fixed some damage there. 21.3 for Altonen. So remember, it was 51 and I believe 11. Might not have the best short-term memory, I apologize. The gap between Alex Gull and Chris Barrett still has not changed. 1.3 seconds between these guys. And the gap between GT3 and podium sitters still has not changed either. Meanwhile, Eric Love just made an overtake on James Bowman, if I'm correct. There's 3.5 times between them, and we just saw the position switch, so I assume that was a clean overtake. Can quickly take a look at him. Two BMWs, giving it a bit of a rest. So you've got Liqui Moly, which is one car parts company, and Castro, which is usually known for engine oil, and that's actually James Bowman off. What happened there? Maybe his rear let out a little bit, but that was unlucky. Now he has to wait ages to get back on track. Or maybe not that long, since the grid is fairly spread out. You don't want to be anywhere in the middle part of the lap right now. The first part is fairly clean, as you can see on the track map. So I assume we can hide it now. Obviously, if there's any incidents, it will be fairly difficult to see it. But with this many cars on track, I believe that's sort of expected. Jason Orr still chasing after Bill Smitham though. I mean, James Braid lost a little bit of time. There may have been a pun between these two, although that Audi looks perfectly fine. But Jason is pulling on that pressure, and we saw Bill actually lost out of the position on Duncan Cope when the pressure was applied. May have not been a mistake, but just not fantastic pace either. a few times could really mean that you can overtake the car in front, even if you can't really pull a gap. So he's gonna have to worry about that for the next few laps. Try your best, Bill. And that's James Bowman in the pits now, after his unlucky incident. Maybe trying to capitalize on the slight undercut, but don't think that's gonna work. Adam Singer's dropping down the positions, and that's him off. That's outside of turn 4, I believe. Turn 3 or 4. And he's dropping down to P11. So that means he actually has to worry about James Bowman now. James Bowman had his own spin before he got back on track. It took a little bit. And that's it, yeah. Just saw a bit of a logo artifact in this. Adam Singer going side by side with Carlton Small, maybe separating the field a little bit, but Nick Green has actually pulled 2.5 seconds on Carlton Small. So now that fire has dissipated a bit, but George Appleyard still has just about a second to Carlton Small. Whether that will keep up, who knows, but you've also got William Hope eager to get past him, so time may be lost here, and positions may not be gained. But meanwhile, Alex Go is back up the spoiler of Chris Barrett, chasing after him still, unable to make an overtake so far, but we have seen this with Sebring in LMP2. He was chasing after Tom Conor-Dahlman for a very long time, but then managed to make the overtake work in an unexpected spot, really. But that's George Appleyard coming into the pits. This is definitely an undercar attempt, because as you saw that he was stuck in traffic, car in front, car behind, getting ready to pass him actually. So he was bound to lose time if he hasn't lost any at all. There's also Stephen Hughes following him in. So you've got the usual strategy choice, following in your opponent, unless you want to go for an undercut, overcut. Duncan Hope inherits P4 now. He will end up losing it sadly, but we'll call him a provisional P4. Jason Orr also gets P4. Bill Smitham actually drops down to P9 for whatever reason. What happened to him? Not exactly sure. Alex Go and Chris Barrett coming onto the next lap, lap 16 now. Half a second separates them still. So Alex does find it a little bit hard maybe to keep up with Chris right up his spoiler, but he's still in the tow, so that's good enough for him, I guess. You can see Danny and Steven dropping back. Well, actually Danny just came into the pits, Steven's coming out now, but dropped down to P13. William Hope making an overtake on Adam Singer, who's boxing in now. And actually Richard in the alley in P9 is getting fairly close to Jamie Conway here. We're on the actual early part of the lap, so maybe towards the end of the lap, on the start-finish line, Richard might be able to make a move here. And obviously, if they do, Richard may try and push on to catch up to Jamie Lawrence, Wouter Nelson, Chris Scar. The fight for P5 is on here. A Ferrari and 2 Mercedes. Adam Singer boxes in now. Obviously had an unlucky... actually no, he's coming out now, sorry. That was Oliver Swan that may have went off track there. No, sorry, that was Dan Ocaranza that was off the track. That was not ideal, but he's back on track safely. Doesn't seem like there's any visible damage on his car. His black Mercedes. Maybe maroon. No, it's black for sure. I'm not going blind just yet. And Alex Go continues to stay right up the rear. But that's James Bowman. No, not James Bowman. That was Sander actually. Very, very close. Not sure what was going on there. A little bit of an adventure on the pit exit. May have not actually been Xander then. But look how close these two are. Obviously you have other cars within a second of each other, but look how close Alex is following Chris, and it's just impressive how they can keep it up for so long. I wonder how that Ford must be feeling. I wonder if it really loses out because of error wash, or if it's not that much of a thing in GT3. But it does seem like Alex is making it work. He's keeping up. Maybe even if he's not faster than Chris, he's able to stay and keep that gap there. James Braid actually drops down a little bit, gets overtaken by George Appleyard, who actually boxed in with the undercut. so you can already see how much of a gap there is from the front of the grid. But that car does not look healthy. James is definitely losing time because of that. He's improved, but George is doing 23s while James is doing 24s. It's not good, not good. Karen Kopchik jumps ahead of Steve Rubino. His Ferrari looks fine now, unlike before with no engine cover. Sorry, not engine cover, no bonnet. And now he's pulled the gap to Rubino quite well. James Bowman is dropping down the order. Oh, he's boxing in that. You see another BMW behind him. That may be Derek Aquinas. Yes, that is. There you go. Ricardo Small is coming into the pits as well, with a missing front bonnet. And that bonnet has magically appeared. Welcome to iRacing. Obviously, he still has to sit out the service time for the pits for fuel. And there you go, 11.8. That was a very competitive stop. Meanwhile, Alex is still chasing after Chris, and Ruta Nelson is right up Jamie Lawrence's rear wing. And there's also, wow, Michael Alton getting very close with Ruta Nelson, but getting by safely, but whew, that was very close. Choosing to tuck in very late, or very early, sorry. Very close between these guys. Ruta doesn't seem like he'll be able to make a move on Jamie very soon, but he can still keep up the pressure. I mean, Jamie isn't known for making mistakes, but if you put him under too much pressure, anyone can crack, really. It's just at what point? James Bowman is still in the pits. Jason Orr is exiting the pits now. He actually exits behind Bill Smitham. So the person he was ahead of, or was chasing after earlier, is now ahead of him again. But it's getting very tight here with the cars on track. You've got cars exiting the pits, you've got cars coming up, being lapped. It is very, very close. You've got the freeway fight for P5, you've got the fight for the lead, you've got the fight between Nico Altman and Cody Hatch. It is incredibly close between these drivers. Obviously, we've got 20 minutes remaining, so the cars have split up a bit over the course of the 19 laps we've had so far for the leaders. But James Bowman doesn't seem like he's going to come out of the pits anytime soon. He may have told, I believe. But that means he's staying out for a little bit. Now you've got James Braid boxing in. Cody Hatch will... Actually, where is Cody Hatch? Cody Hatch is there, sorry, not Cody Hatch. Oliver Swan is P5. George Appleyard is the P4, still waiting to inherit his P3. He had that originally, but still has to wait for Duncan to pit when there's a very big gap between them. 5 seconds would be quite big. And obviously 30 seconds to Carlton Small from Duncan. Meanwhile, Alex goes still 3 tenths off Chris Barrett. And Saman Sayed keeping up under a second behind Oliver Swan. But don't think he's able to make an overtake. We can quickly take a look at him. Oliver Swan's in the Ferrari and Saman Sayed's in the Mercedes, keeping that small gap ahead. But oh, that's Nick Green in the pits. That's our race leader for GT3 and in the pits. An undercut on Carlton Small, or an undercut to gain time on Carlton Small. Because Carlton Small is coming through turn 1, and he is gonna start pulling his gap now. Let's see if he can push a bit harder. He's got some clean air. We'll see when Carlton pits, when Nick Green comes out. Nick Green is now coming out of the pits 5.3, not the fastest service, but not the slowest service either. Coming out of the pits, that's gonna be around 50 seconds as usual. The pit exit is fairly long before it shows up on the timings. That is 54.5, so obviously the 2 seconds extra of service time did not help out here. Meanwhile, Alex is still chasing after Chris Barrett in the Audi. A little bit of a flash to Kevin Straw ahead, who is currently being lapped. Let's by very nicely. Thank you there, Kevin. Bill Smitham drops down behind Jason Orr, James Braid, Mikhail Altonen. What happened to Bill? Oh my gosh, Bill's car is completely done for now. It might not look like much, but that front right is definitely damaged, and there may be some suspension damage, and it happened on the final corner, meaning he has to drive the entire lap unless he wants to tow. and that's going to cost him a ton of time. Unless he's got no suspension damage. But now William Hope sets the fastest lap of the race with a 21.071. So you can see the pace is coming out of these drivers now. They've got some clean air since everyone is a bit more spread out. And now they're pushing their hardest to close the gaps. But now this is coming out, these fast laps. And Nick Green is in the pits again. He may have got a penalty, some sort of drive-through maybe. Or maybe not enough fuel to complete the race. Duncan Cope comes into the pits now, so that'll be George Apriol taking back his P3. There you go, he's coming by. He was fairly close to to Duncan Cope, so he could have even overtaken him on track in a few laps. Meanwhile, Jamie Lawrence getting past Chris Scarr, who went a bit wide on the run down the corkscrew. Not sure what happened there, doesn't seem like there was any damage, doesn't touch a curb. That's Jamie Lawrence up into P5, 10 seconds behind Nils Core, and ahead of Chris Scarr and Wouter Nelson. Wouter obviously putting on the pressure on Jamie, but that pressure was felt by Chris. And now he can try and apply that pressure on Chris. James Braid ahead of, that is Mikael Aaltonen now. They're actually going side by side. So James Braid is falling down the order even more, but they're going side by side even. Wow. Oh, actually no, look at James Braid's car, he's overtaking here even. My mistake. Good overtake by him. He's got no damage, that car is shiny as usual, no more scratches, no anything. Maybe a little bit of dirt, but that's usual. So now he's up into P7 and trying to catch up to Jason Orr now. Saman Sayed still chasing up to Oliver Swan now. I believe this is a provisional P3. Since Nick Green was in the pits, but I don't know how long that might go on. Meanwhile, Carlton Small is coming out in the lead of this race. Adam Singer overtakes him obviously on track, so now he's back up with his grid. Oh, actually, might be a bit closer, but now Adam Singer's through. And now that's Carlton Small coming out just ahead of the leaders. Might cause a little bit of lost time. Saman Sayed undercuts here. Chris Scarr, Wouter Nelson, and Jamie Conway all come into the pits here. Look how many cars there are. And they're all Mercedes besides that one little Chris Scarr Ferrari. So they're all going to be fighting in the pits. This is the one to watch right now. On track as well. So those 3 cars just pit stalls apart. It's absolutely crazy. Chris Scarr will be coming out first, followed by Wouter Nelson, followed by Jamie Conway, who's very close to William Hope even. Very, very close. Oh, that might actually be William Hope. Sorry, that's not William Hope. That was Saman Sayed. Not the fastest top spy drivers, besides Wouter Nelson and Chris Scarr. Those were 11 seconds, so that's good. And Chris Barrett's in the pits now. And let's go, we'll inherit the lead and have to deal with Carlton Small, our GT3 AM leader, so that's GT3 Pro lapping all of GT3 AM. They've already lapped the rear, now they have to just lap the front. Obviously, I believe they may have already been lapped, but the pits are coming in now. Well, actually no, that's incorrect, they haven't been lapped yet, at least the whole grid hasn't, but Carlton is being lapped now. But Carlton has already boxed. So that's 32 minutes it took for Alex Gold to get past. Carlton can cruise a little bit now. He's got 6 seconds, 6-7 seconds between him and George. So he can put on the chillax now, hit the consistent laps and deal with it. That's Richard in the pits, Jamie Lawrence in the pits, Eric Love in the pits, so we've got another triple pit stop. Nils Cool coming out of the pits with a little bit of damage on the front right. May have not selected the fast repair there. But 12.3, 53.1, not the slowest pit stop, not the fastest pit stop. Jamie Lawrence coming out behind Wouter Nelson. So he's lost time in the pit stop. And that's actually quite surprising considering there's 11.5. But 55.6 altogether, not ideal. Richard coming out behind Jamie Conway. So behind where he was a while back. Eric Love now putting pressure on Richard. Well, there's actually 9 seconds of a gap to Jamie Conway, so Richard has lost time. And look at Eric Love making a move on the inside. That's turn 4. Still side by side and through he goes. Very good move, very well timed when you have traffic all about. One of the moves you'd expect from LMP1 drivers when they're boosting by full speed. Just slam the boost. It's all or nothing. Very good move. Duncan Cope chasing up to Oliver Swan now. This is the fight for P3. I believe Nick Green might actually be out of the fight for P3 now after his penalty, I believe, for speeding in the pit lane. Because that's what it seemed like, at least. So Duncan Cope can actually get the P3 he was provisionally on before, and take it for himself, take the points home. Richard and Eric are still giving it a little bit of a scrap, but Jamie Lawrence is trying to get back out Rutan Anderson. Obviously, he wants that position back, since he didn't even lose it on track, he lost it while being in the pit lane. But that means Jamie has lost quite a bit of time. Going a little bit too deep into turn 2. Sorry, going too deep into turn 1 and trying to maybe get a faster exit into turn 2, but he can just about keep up with Ruta, not really gain much time. Carlton Small hitting the fastest lap of GT3 AM. So there you go, that's his cruising act. He's chill, he's hitting up the fast laps. I think it's safe to say, unless something unpredictable happens, Carlton will be the winner of this race. Meanwhile, the lead, we're unsure about that. I mean, Alex did box, come out 1.7 seconds ahead, so he's gained time in the clean air. But anything can still happen. I mean, that last lap was inaccurate, but obviously we have to compare the lap time between these two drivers if we want a real prediction of who's going to be the winner here. Rutan Anderson, now actually there's a four-way fight, 4P5. Chris Scarl, Rutan Anderson, Jamie Lawrence, Jamie Conway, all so close together, lapping one of the... Actually, who was that? One of the GT3 AM drivers, if I remember correctly, but I'm not sure who. The gaps between these cars are just under a second, but as you can see, Jamie Lawrence going and taking his, I think that might actually be his usual line, getting past Mikel Alterman now. And Jamie Conway benefiting from that as well. Obviously Jamie may have lost a little bit of time there, as you can see that gap is 9 tenths, so he definitely lost some time over the course of the lap. And now he's under pressure by Jamie Conway, another Mercedes driver. Karen Kovchik is in the pits now. I believe that's a fuel stop. Nope, that's damage yet again. But not faster per this time, since obviously it was 1 per driver. And 1 per race. So you're going to have to drive with that damaged car. Maybe fix some of the damage, but at 7.6 seconds, I don't know about that. That's cones flying all over the place, or bollards. I'm not exactly sure what the keyword for them will be. But currently, the fight to watch is the fight right here. The 4-way fight, 4P5. And that's a car coming out back on track. Kevin Straw very, very close to them. Still a fairly safe rejoin. Obviously the car didn't want to turn them straight away. But that was very stressful for them, I must assume. Jamie Lawrence giving it a little bit of a blink. Maybe scaring Jamie Conway that way. Some psychological racing. Please don't blink too much. Now Stephen Hughes and Karen Kovchik. And chasing after Sam and Syed. Obviously Karen does have that damage, or at least visible damage to deal with, and Sam and Syed gets a bit of a slide, slowing them down into the corkscrew, and Karen actually has to brake a little bit there to avoid Stephen. That Ferrari looks very ridiculous around the bonnet. But I assume it's not too difficult to drive considering Karen's doing it, and not spinning, and keeping it all nice and tight. And nearly overtaking Stephen here. But we'll stay with the fight, 4P5. This is the fight I'm expecting to give us some results before the end of the race. We've got around 8 minutes remaining. That should be more than enough for these guys to close the gap and maybe make an overtake. You can hear someone coming into the pits. That's Dan coming into the pits again. So that might be some sort of penalty maybe. Repairs, who knows. But you can see how close Ruto is to the rear of Chris Scarr. Adam Singer getting past Eric Love now, I believe yet again. Eric Love dropping back behind Carlton Small, maybe something happened for him. Yeah, Eric Love seems to have went off track somewhat. But this fight, I think, I mean, obviously Jamie Lawrence and Jamie Conway, the two Jamies, they don't seem to be really doing much, but Ruta is following Chris very, very closely, and I expect him to try and make a move. Obviously, Jamie and Jamie, funny enough, are both playing the same tactic. Let me just try and close the gap as much as I can before I try something. But here you see Ruta is putting the pressure on really hard. You can see, there you go, takes a look on the inside. Is he making a move? Yes, he is making a move, and that's P5. Clean through the corner. On the exit, he was already clear as day. And that's Jamie Lawrence actually going side by side with Chris Scott. And he's ahead. Jamie Conway tried to maybe attempt an overtake there, but Chris Scott defended that actually. Saw Matt Edmondson, I believe, going slowly there, letting the cars by. And you see quite a few drivers pitting again. I believe those might be the scheduled pit stops. Not exactly sure. With 5 minutes remaining, I'm not sure though. Might be under fuel in the car. But now the positions have changed. We've got Wouter Nelson in P5, Jamie Lawrence in P6, still behind Wouter Nelson though. And Chris Scarr dropping down to P7, that's 2 positions lost for him. And Jamie Conway in P8. But so far, Wouter Nelson has gained 10 positions after the start of the race. Duncan Cope has gained 16 positions. He's currently in P3, as you can see here. But our biggest gainer so far, is actually Duncan Cope with 16 positions. Our biggest loss today was Dan Bull, losing 34 positions. Obviously, that includes GT3 AM as well, but he went from pretty much fight for the podium to last place. Meanwhile, there's actually been a move, I think, done. Chris Scarr is past Jamie Lawrence. What happened to Jamie Lawrence? Jamie Lawrence was off track, and he's still off track, getting the wheels spinning through the gravel, but that was not ideal for him. And he's lost a ton of time. He's now down in P9 from a wonderful P6. He's actually got damaged. He may have driven over a curb, because exactly the same thing happened to me after driving over one of the red tool curves, apparently used for teaching drivers how to hit the apex. A fact I never knew, really. But Jamie is very, I wouldn't say unlucky, but that was not the right time to do that. Obviously, he did so well to get up into good positions. 4 minutes remaining of the race, and now it's just going to be a sad end. But Jamie Conway benefited from it, jumps into P7, and now chasing after Chris Scarr for P6. Will Chris have to deal with being P7 again? Or can he keep Jamie Conway behind him? But they're very, very close together. I don't know. Can they keep him up? Oh, sorry, can they? Can Chris keep him behind? Getting the wonderful motion blur. The lights gleaming. Obviously it's getting brighter as the day goes on. And Jamie Conway will attempt to really get close to Chris Scarr, but obviously he won't dive in. Not a very smart thing to do in the corkscrew. But the closer you get, the more pressure you should be applying on the driver, since he'll be trying his best not to make any mistakes, since even one mistake can mean he either gets punted, either goes wide, locks up, which isn't really a thing in GT3, or just really takes a slower corner entry / exit / really line. And actually, Oliver Swan, I didn't realize this, has dropped back behind Jason Orr. He's still chasing after him, but James Braid is also there, ready to join in on the fight, gaining back what he lost earlier in the race. And that's Oliver Swan in the wall. A similar type of damage as we had with Karen, I believe. But, well, that was very fast and unexpected. He's back on track. Well, that's definitely some sort of damage. But maybe some suspension damage looking at how the car's driving. Yeah, that definitely seems like suspension damage now. And actually, Jamie Conway has lost some time to Chris Scarr. With 2 minutes remaining, Mika Altonen takes P6. Obviously, Oliver Swan is now out of this race, teleports back to the pits, and that's Jamie Conway. Spinning round in the corkscrew, very awkward place to spin there. It's halfway up the hill, or halfway down the hill. Coming off clear of Mikkel Aaltonen, but there you go. Oliver Swan dropping down the positions properly now after towing the car. And Alex Go, I believe with 1.5 minutes will be leading the final lap of the race. So we'll hop on board with him for the final lap. Maybe attempt to look at how the lap looks. Down the corkscrew we go. Very, very intense, shall I say. It must be very tense in the car. Especially in the car that... Oh my gosh, that's Chris Barrett spinning around. And, wow. Some drivers know that the Audi has that tendency to snap from just driving it. Others hear stories like I do. But that's a prime example of it. It just completely snapped on him. He spun around. Now he's got 3.8 seconds leeway to make a few more mistakes maybe on the final lap. Not that he wants to make mistakes, but he should be safe in P2. Will not be able to challenge for P1. Although that was pretty much settled when Alex Go took the overcut on Chris Barrett. So you see Alex with 20 seconds remaining, he will have to finish this lap and that will be it for the race. But we've still got a little bit of a fight going on between Chris Carr and Wout Allison. A few tenths, well, half a second, 6 tenths separate them. And obviously you've got Richard chasing after Eric. Eric actually missing a front end. That's a front end completely gone. That car does not look healthy. So Richard will be definitely catching here. There is no way that car's driving. That is not right. How is that car driving? It's got wheels, but... Wow, that is incredible. A front engine car that has no front completely is driving as if it's got nothing wrong with it. Richard will be hoping to get past here. Obviously it's the end of the race now. Alex Go coming across the start-finish straight will be taking the first win of GT3 Pro. And is this the start of a new domination? Another domination? I think not, but that was a great win and a half. Chasing after Chris Barrett for pretty much the whole race, and then finally making a run after the pit phase started. The pit window opened pretty much. And that's where Alex thought, oh yeah, I can gain a bit more time here and keep Chris Barrett behind. And Chris obviously spun as well towards the end, but he'll be happy with P2. Meanwhile, you've got Carlton Small halfway through the lap, obviously after the lapping, or at least the traffic and the pace difference. We'll watch him as he comes down the corkscrew, and then comes across the line in a few corners time. We'll be taking P1 ahead of multiple GT3 Pro drivers, which is a very impressive feat. But Boutonas actually managed to keep P5 from Chris Scar, and Jamie Conway is happy with P7 after Jamie Lawrence's mistake. Very unlucky mistake. But that's Carlton Small coming across the line to take the win for GT3 AM. There's our 2 race wins. Alex Go and Carlton Small, congratulations to you for the first race of the season. For the first race of Season 2 in the GT3 League. Very well done to these drivers. Can't believe how exciting it was. Obviously even very difficult to commentate when you've got this many cars on track in qualifying, for instance. But some great racing between these drivers. Everyone taking a slow parade lap. In-lap even. A bit unlucky for a few drivers such as Dan Ball, Derek McManus, even Callum Kovchik, who managed to get back on the timing tower, but just didn't really end up anywhere else after his unlucky crash. But other than that, let's run through the final results. So with the race win, it was Alex Go. 10 seconds ahead of Chris Barrett. Obviously they were very close, under 2 seconds. Chris Barrett's happy with P2. Henry Tadeuszak is happy with a P3. Fairly dominant P3. I mean, besides Dan Ball and Eric Newman fighting him, everyone else behind is fairly far behind. Nils Cole with P4 had a very large gap in front of him and behind him, so he had a chill race today. Wooteners P5 ends up ahead of Chris Scar, who finally defended the P5 from Wooteners, Jamie Conway, Jamie Lawrence, but has to settle for P6. Jamie Conway in P7, William Hope in P8, benefited from Jamie's spin there. P9 for Jamie Lawrence, ahead of Adam Singer, actually fairly close to C1 minute 03. Not sure if that's entirely correct. Adam Singer in P10 had a few spins, but actually came back to have a decent race. Eric Love fairly close behind, and Richard just a second behind Eric as well. Edward Hope never had the best race today, and Eric Newman obviously unlucky crash, had to tow, and that was his race pretty much over, but he kept driving, so props to him. James Bowman, Derek McManus, and Dan Bull, P15, 16, 17 respectively, didn't finish the race if I remember correctly. And now for Am. We've got Carlton Small taking a win by 12 seconds as the only two drivers that haven't been lapped by the GT3 Pro class. So that's P1, P2. George Appleyard in P2, obviously. Duncan Culp in P3. Didn't seem like he was going to get that P3, but he didn't. It went from provisional to confirmed. Followed by Jason Orr in P4, James Braid in P5, Mikhail Altonen in P6, a name that showed up fairly often. Obviously, I saw him around on the cameras fairly often on the standings. So, good job to him for getting known. Nick Green had the potential to get the race win today, but for whatever reason had to pit the second time, so unlucky for him. Dan Reed in P8, I believe he had a spin somewhere as well. Stephen Hughes and Saman Sayed. Saman had an unlucky spin somewhere, but he was providing some good action for the cameras. Cody Hatch, solid race today for him. Wasn't on the cameras for too much, if much time at all. But, I mean, if you don't make yourself known, that means you're just a solid driver right there. Oliver Swan with an unlucky crash in the late in parts of the race, just went straight into a wall. Matt Edmondson and Steve Rubino, not much camera time for them either. Maybe had a bit of a spin, considering a little bit of a gap. Karen Kovchik with an unlucky race, obviously had damage. He came back, fixed it, then got damage again, or at least judging by the fact he had no front bumper, sorry. Kevin Straw, clean driving from him. Obviously may have had an unlucky race today as well. Dano Carranza and Danny Hujavin rounding off P17 and P18. Ricardo Small in P19. Rahul Bolineni with a retirement in P20. Will Smitham actually didn't notice he retired in P21. Alexander in P22. And that's it for the first race at Laguna Seca of the PPR and DaveCam iRacing GT3 League. A big thank you to all the drivers who gathered here today to provide us with action. We had a solid 39 drivers today, with pretty much 35 at least finishing, I believe. Great action from Pro and Am, and some great racing as expected from this class of drivers. Thank you to all the staff and the sponsors for organizing this, and obviously DaveCam for putting his name on reputation on it. And I'll see you on race 2. So thank you all for watching, and see you the next time.